Hi dear students. Today we are going to study the Union Judiciary. So you may please take section A Civics, page number 39, chapter 4, the Union Judiciary, the Supreme Court. So far we had seen 3 chapters from civics part. The first one, the Union Parliament. Second one, the Union Executive, the President and the Vice President of India. Third one, the Union Executive, the Prime Minister, the Cabinet and the Council of Ministers. And now we are going to see the fourth chapter, that is the Union Judiciary, the Supreme Court. So here already we had seen 3 different organs are there in government. The first one it is the legislative branch, second one executive branch, and third one judiciary. The first 2 branches that we have already seen, and you know the speciality of these branches. Legislative branch, they are the law making body, and the executive branch, they are the branch which executes or enforce the laws made by the legislative body. And the fourth one, the judiciary. Judiciary is the branch which enforce or interpret the laws made by the legislative branch. Now we will see the fourth chapter, that is the Union Judiciary, the Supreme Court. You may please take page number 14. Single integrated judiciary system. In India, we have got a single integrated judiciary system in which Supreme Court act as the apex court. Apex court means the highest one. To understand this, you should understand what is single integrated judiciary system. Single integrated judiciary system means the Supreme Court is the head of the entire system. And Supreme Court not only supervises but also exercise control over the functioning of other courts. That is the first point related to the single integrated judiciary system. In single integrated judiciary system, Supreme Court is the head of the entire judicial system, and it not only supervises but also exercise control over the functioning of other all lower courts. And second one, there are single civil and criminal system that operates throughout the country and not separate set of law. For different state or for different courts, there is no separate law. There is only single civil and criminal system, only one. No separate one for different courts or states. And by the appeal, third one it is that by giving appeal, all the cases that come from the lower court can be taken to the high court and ultimately to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is the highest or the apex court, and by giving appeal from the lower court, the cases can be taken to the higher court, first to the high court, then to the Supreme Court. That is about the single integrated judiciary system. In India, we are having a single integrated judiciary system in which Supreme Court act as the head or the apex of all other courts. Now we will see the features of single integrated judiciary system. The first feature, all the courts interpret and enforce the state laws and the laws made by the Parliament. You know, the Parliament or the legislative branch makes the laws, and it is the duty of the courts to interpret and enforce the laws made by the Parliament. And the second point, it is the Supreme Court is at the head of the judicial system. Below the Supreme Court stand the high courts of various states. Under each high court, there is a hierarchy of district courts and other subordinate courts in a descending order. In the judiciary system, Supreme Court is the top or the head of the judicial system. And below the Supreme Court, there are high courts representing different states, the high court of various states. Under the high court, there are district courts and the other subordinate courts. That is the second feature of single integrated judiciary system. The third point is that the subordinate courts district courts, and high courts are all supervised and controlled by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is the head of the judicial system, so it controls and supervises all the subordinate courts, district courts, and the high courts. And the fourth one, the laws declared by the Supreme Court are binding on all courts within the territory of India. Supreme Court is the apex court, so whatever laws declared by the Supreme Court, that is binding on all other courts, all the lower courts, even in the high courts. There are no separate laws, and one single criminal and civil system operates throughout the country. There is no separate laws for the different states or different courts. Only one single criminal and civil system operates throughout the country, and that is same for all the courts in India. That is the fifth point. And sixth one, all cases are taken from the lower courts to the high courts and finally to the Supreme Court by means of appeal. By giving appeal, one case can be taken from lower court to the high court and from high court to the Supreme Court. So these all are the different features of single integrated judiciary system in India. Next point it is requirement of the Supreme Court. India has a federal political setup, and one of the essential features of the federation is the existence of the Supreme Court. Hence, the Supreme Court exists in our Indian federal structure. You know what is federal political setup. In India, there are two governments. First one, there is a government for the entire country known as the Union government, and the second one, the government for the state, that is the state government. And these kind of federal political setup, and the essential feature of such a kind of federation is the existence of Supreme Court in India. And the second point it is the Supreme Court should be there to solve the disputes between the union and the state governments. So India has got a federal political setup. There is a government at the center, and there is a government at the state, union and the state governments. Sometimes there is a chance for disputes between the central government and the state government. So it is the duty of the Supreme Court to solve the disputes between the central government and the state government. And the third one, the Supreme Court is there to protect our fundamental rights. It is the duty of the Supreme Court to protect the fundamental rights of the citizens. Fourth one, the Supreme Court should exist to interpret the Constitution of India. India has got the Constitution, and it is the duty of the Supreme Court to interpret, to make it clear to the people, the citizen. So it is the duty of the Supreme Court to interpret the Constitution of India. The Supreme Court can give a new meaning to the Indian Constitution in order to adapt itself with the changing needs of the society. So society may need new changes. So in such a kind of situation, the Supreme Court can make necessary changes or adaptation. So there, Supreme Court can give a new meaning to the Indian Constitution. That is the last point. Composition and organization of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court consists of the Chief Justice of India and not more than the 30 other judges. That is the composition of the Supreme Court. There is a Chief Justice of India and not more than 30 other judges. That is the number of judges in Supreme Court, one Chief Justice and maximum number of other judges, that is 30. And the appointment of the Supreme Court judges. Each judge of the Supreme Court is appointed by the President after consultation with the judges of the Supreme Court and of the High Courts, as the President may feel necessary. That we had seen already in previous chapters, the duties of President. So it is the duty of the President, it is the responsibility of the President to appoint the judges of Supreme Court after consultation with the judges of the Supreme Court and of the other high courts. And When President appoints a judge other than the Chief Justice, he always consults the Chief Justice of India. Whenever he appoints a new judge in Supreme Court, he always consults with the Chief Justice of India. And in turn, the Chief Justice may consult with the four senior most judges of the Supreme Court before making a recommendation or before making a decision. The President may ask or consult with the Chief Justice before appointing a new Supreme Court judge, and that time the Chief Justice he may consult with the other three senior most Supreme Court judges before making a recommendation to the President. And the criterion for the appointment of the Chief Justice of India is seniority. According to the seniority, the Chief Justice is selected or appointed. And what all are the qualifications? The first one, a judge of the Supreme Court must be a citizen of India. First and foremost qualification, that is, he must be a citizen of India. And the second one, he must have been a judge for at least 5 years in High Court of India. At least for 5 years, he must have been a judge in a High Court of India. Or he should have been an advocate of a High Court for at least 10 years. And fourth one, he must be, in the opinion of the President, a distinguished jurist. That is the fourth qualification. The second one, that is, at least for 5 years, he must have been a judge in a High Court, and otherwise, advocate of a High Court for at least 10 years. And the next one, the oath of office. Every judge, before undertaking the charge of his or her service as a judge, has to take an oath. And what is the oath here? The first one, he or she will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution. Allegiance means loyalty. So he will be loyal to the Constitution and he will bear true faith to the Constitution. And the second one, will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India. And the third one, will perform the duties of his or her office without fear or favor, affection or ill will. That means he won't show any kind of partiality, without showing or without having any fear and without doing any favor for his favorable ones. Term of office and procedure of removal. The age limit, that is 65 years. The judges of the Supreme Court retire at the age of 65 years and he can resign from his post by writing to the President. And otherwise, he can be removed from his office by the President. And how he can be removed? On the ground of proved misbehavior or incapacity. The President can remove the judges, the Supreme Court judges, but there should be a proved misbehavior and incapacity from the part of the Supreme Court judge. And the President cannot do alone, but it can be done only by an address of each houses of the Parliament to the President and by passing a resolution by both the houses with a 2/3 majority. That is the condition for removing the judges of the Supreme Court. The President can remove the Supreme Court judge on the basis of proved misbehavior or incapacity, but before that, it should address of each houses of the Parliament to the President and by passing a resolution by both the houses with a 2/3 majority. And the judge can be removed only after the President gives order for removal. Even though after getting the 2/3 majority, the President also should give the order for removal. Then only the judge can be removed from his post. The judges of the Supreme Court cannot practice at any of the courts of India after their retirement from office. Once they retire from the office, then the Supreme Court judge, they can't practice at any of the courts of India. Jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. The meaning of jurisdiction is that it is the power of the Supreme Court to exercise laws, to carry out judgment, to interpret laws and to settle disputes. It is the power of the Supreme Court to exercise the laws and to carry out the judgments and to interpret the laws made by the legislative assembly and to settle disputes between the state and the central government. Normally, the Supreme Court has got four types of jurisdiction. First one, original, the second one, appellate, and the third one, advisory, and the fourth one, revisory. The first one, it is the original jurisdiction. Here, the Supreme Court can hear and decide in the first instance. That is the original jurisdiction. Only the Supreme Court can hear and decide in the first instance, and such kind of cases cannot be moved to any other courts, only to the Supreme Court, directly brought before the Supreme Court. And the features of such kind of original jurisdiction are: it is a dispute between the government of India and one or more states. Such kind of cases directly brought before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has original jurisdiction over a dispute between the government of India and one or more states. And the second one, dispute between two or more states of the Indian Union. Between two states, if there is any conflict or disputes, then such a kind of cases can be brought before the Supreme Court. Third one, the dispute between the Union and any state on one hand and other states on the other hand. One state and Union stand together and all other states are in the opposition. So there also such kind of cases can be brought before the Supreme Court. And it is suits involving the fundamental rights can be brought by the private individual before the Supreme Court. If any private individual notice that there is a violation of fundamental rights, then such kind of cases can be brought before the Supreme Court. Why? The Supreme Court has the duty to protect the fundamental rights of the citizen. Cases in which the interpretation of the Constitution is involved, if the Constitution should be detailed manner, it should be explained, or the interpretation of the Constitution is needed, then in such a kind of cases, the only Supreme Court can involve, and such a kind of cases will be brought before the Supreme Court. The second one, that is appellate jurisdiction. A court of appeal means one which may change the decision or reduce the sentence passed by the lower courts. The Supreme Court is the highest court of appeal in our country. Appeals in specific civil and criminal cases can be made to the Supreme Court against the decisions of the state courts. So in appellate jurisdiction, the Supreme Court can change the decisions made by the lower courts or reduce the sentence passed by the lower courts, because Supreme Court is the highest court of appeal in our country. The lower court can take their own decisions and they can pass their own sentences, but it can be changed or reduced by the Supreme Court. And the decisions can be made to the Supreme Court against the decisions of the state high courts. And appellate jurisdiction covers three types of cases. The first one, that is constitutional, and the second one civil, and the third one criminal. The first point under appellate jurisdiction, that is constitutional cases. Constitutional cases means the matters related to constitution that can be taken to the Supreme Court. Appeals in constitutional matters lie in the Supreme Court, and these appeals are regarding decisions in civil and criminal proceedings if the High Court certificates that the case involves the interpretation of the Constitution. If the High Court or the lower court feels that the particular case it involves the interpretation of the Constitution, then it will be taken to the Supreme Court, because it is the duty of the Supreme Court to interpret the Constitution. And if the High Court refuses, then what will happen? Then Supreme Court can grant special leave of appeal directly. The Supreme Court has a final say regarding the matters involving the interpretation of the Constitution. It is the duty of the Supreme Court to interpret the Constitution, and if High Court refuses, then the Supreme Court can grant a special leave of appeal, because that person can give appeal in the Supreme Court. The second one under the appellate jurisdiction, it is the civil cases. Appeals in civil cases lie to the Supreme Court if the High Court certifies under two conditions. The first one, that the cases involves a substantial question of law of general importance, that is something connected with the public importance, and that is something general. In such a kind of cases, and where the involvement of a substantial question of law of general importance, there that case can be taken to the Supreme Court. And the second one, the question should be decided by the Supreme Court. And under these two conditions, appeal can be taken to the Supreme Court in civil cases. And it depends upon the importance of the cases. If the case is so much important, then only it will be taken to the Supreme Court. Even if the High Court refuses to give the certificate, the Supreme Court can grant a special leave to appeal in suitable cases. Sometimes the High Court won't allow to go to Supreme Court for the appeal, but in such a kind of conditions, Supreme Court can grant a special leave to appeal in suitable cases. The third point under appellate jurisdiction, that is criminal cases. Regarding the criminal cases, there are two types of appeals lie in the Supreme Court. They are, first one, cases without the certificate of the High Court, and the second one, cases with the certificate of the High Court. First one we will see, the certificate of the High Court is not required in a case in which the High Court has reversed, that means changed, the judgment of acquittal given by the lower court and punished the accused with a death sentence. Here, acquittal means it is a decision from the lower court that the person is not guilty. So, if the High Court changes such a kind of decision taken by the lower court and gives a death sentence, then the certificate of the High Court is not required for the appeal. And the second one, a case which is withdrawn from a subordinate court and the accused has been sentenced to death. The case is withdrawn from the subordinate court, and from there the accused or the guilty, he has been sentenced to death, then such a kind of cases can be taken to the Supreme Court. And the second one, in all other criminal cases, a certificate by the High Court is required for appealing to the Supreme Court. The first one, the certificate of the High Court is not required in cases, two cases we discussed. And the second one, in all other criminal cases, a certificate by the High Court is required for appealing to the Supreme Court. Okay, here with the certificate from the High Court only, in all other criminal cases that can give appeal in the Supreme Court. And the next point, power to grant special leave of appeal or petition. We had seen whenever the High Court, if they don't give, then the Supreme Court can grant special leave of appeal. So here we will see what is the special leave of appeal or petition. Under Article 136 of the Constitution, the Supreme Court can allow special leave to appeal against the judgment of any court of India. That means it is something against. Here, whenever the lower court passes a particular decision or a sentence, then the Supreme Court can go against that one. And the Supreme Court can stand with the accused, and the accused can give a appeal there in the Supreme Court, except against an order of a court related to the armed forces. In all other matters, Supreme Court can interfere. In fact, there is nothing to prevent the Supreme Court from interfering where a court has misdirected itself or where it is a serious error of law. Whenever the lower court make a serious error or misdirected, then that time Supreme Court can interfere. Nothing can prevent the Supreme Court. That means Supreme Court can interfere wherever there is the serious error of law is there. And however, a person who fails to obtain a certificate from the High Court may avail this provision for appealing against a wrong judgment. Whenever there is a wrong judgment is passed to the accused, then that accused can go to the Supreme Court for the appeal. The third point under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is advisory jurisdiction. And under advisory jurisdiction, the Supreme Court has got some function. What are the advisory functions of the Supreme Court? The first one, the President may seek opinion of the Supreme Court on a question of law or fact of considerable public importance on two things, question of law and something that is connected with the public importance. There the President can seek the opinion of the Supreme Court as to the Supreme Court. And the second one, it is that when President asks or seeks the opinion of the Supreme Court is not bound to express its opinion on the matters referred to it. And it is not something very strict or compulsory that the Supreme Court should give the opinion. The Supreme Court is free to deny and accept. And the third one, the advice and the opinion of the Supreme Court is not binding on the President as it is not a judicial decision. The third point, it is very clear that President is not compelled to accept the decisions or the opinion made by the Supreme Court. There also the President can either reject or accept the decisions or opinions given by the Supreme Court. And the fourth one, under this jurisdiction, disputes involving interpretation of treaties or agreements of former Indian states can be also referred to the Supreme Court for its opinion. So, in advisory jurisdiction, the Supreme Court gives its opinion on several matters. The fourth and the final point under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is revisory function. The Supreme Court exercises the power to review any judgment or order declared by it. This provision enables the Supreme Court to rectify any error that might have crept in this judgment or order. This is because the Supreme Court cannot allow any error in its judgment as it may prove to be harmful for the common good. Revisory function, that means even the Supreme Court has got the power to review any judgment or order declared by it. The Supreme Court, the order that is already declared by the Supreme Court, that can be reviewed. It can change. It can be changed. This provision enables the Supreme Court to rectify, to correct the mistakes that have crept in this judgment or order. Whenever some kind of mistakes are there in the order or the judgment, then the Supreme Court can rectify or correct that one. What is the purpose of that? This is because the Supreme Court cannot allow any error. Because if Supreme Court allows any error in its judgment, it can affect the common good. And in order to avoid any harm to the common good, it should be reviewed and correct. The mistake should be corrected. That is the revisory function of the Supreme Court. The next point, it is the public interest litigation. Public interest litigation is a form of litigation wherein a third party whose right has not necessarily been violated can file charges in court against the government. So it is third party is charging a case against the government. There may be a dispute between the government and the common people. Then a third party whose rights are not violated, he can file a case against the government for violating the rights of the second party. So actually the third party is not involved. Then also the third party can file a charges in court against the government. For example, A, B, C. A is the government and B's rights are violated. Then even C can file a case against the A, that is government. So public interest litigation means the third party can charge a case against the government for the common good. The example is given here. We just go through that one. Now we will see the powers of the Supreme Court. The first one, Supreme Court, a court of record. The court of record means its judgments are recorded for evidence and testimony because it can be used in future and it can be used for the similar, it can make similar decisions in similar cases. For that, the Supreme Court keeps the record of all cases. And the second one, even the Supreme Court can punish those who are violating such a kind of rules and laws made by the Supreme Court. That is a court of record. So we have already seen that the Supreme Court has the right and responsibility to protect the fundamental rights of the citizen. So next point, it is the enforcement of fundamental rights. Writ is a form of written command or a document commanding a particular person or official to act or not to act in a particular way. Writ, that is a form of written command which commands a particular person or an official to act or not to act in a particular way. There are different types of writs in order to protect the fundamental right of the citizen. The first one, it is the writ of habeas corpus. Habeas corpus is a Latin word meaning you may have the body. Corpus means the body. So you may have the body. That means present the body before the court. The Supreme Court and the High Court can issue a writ of habeas corpus to a person who has illegally detained another person in custody and command him or her to bring the detainee into the court to clarify the explain why the person has been detained. If it is proved that the detainee has wrongly been detained, then he will be at once and unconditionally released. That means the court declares to, okay, if it is to the police person, declares to the police person to present the accused before the court, to present the body. So whenever a person is illegally detained or in a custody by police force or any other person, then the court can suggest that person to present the detained person. And after that, once the court realizes that the person is not guilty, then that person will be released. That is the writ of habeas corpus. The next one, it is the writ of mandamus. The Latin word means we command. The Latin word mandamus means we command. So here the Supreme Court and the High Courts can issue a writ to compel an inferior court or an official or an individual to perform its or his duties. Whenever the Supreme Court or High Court sees that the lower courts or other person is not doing his duties in a good way and not doing or fulfilling his duties or responsibilities, then the court can command that person or the inferior court to perform their duties. That is the writ of mandamus. The next one, it is the writ of prohibition. It is preventive in nature. That means the Supreme Court prevent an inferior court from hearing a matter beyond its jurisdiction. The court can hear the cases only within the limit of its jurisdiction, and when it goes beyond its jurisdiction, then the Supreme Court can prevent such an action of the inferior court, and the Supreme Court and High Courts direct the inferior court to keep within the limit of its own jurisdiction. And in this sense, it is a preventive in nature. That means it restricts the inferior court and keep the inferior court within the limit of its own jurisdiction, and it won't allow the lower court or inferior court to go beyond its jurisdiction. That is the writ of prohibition. Next one, it is the writ of certiorari. The meaning is that to be informed about what is going on. So the High Court should be informed about what is going on in the inferior courts. Whenever the particular cases is going on in the inferior court, and if it is beyond its jurisdiction, and all the matters related to such a kind of cases should be handed over to the High Court, and it should be informed to the High Court. By this writ, the lower court is instructed to hand over the record of a particular case to High Court. In fact, this writ is issued when a lower court has already heard a case beyond its jurisdiction and given its judgment. So the case may be there in the lower court, and the lower court has already heard the case and passed the judgment. In such a kind of cases, all the case all the record of that particular case should be handed over to the High Court. Why? Because it is beyond the jurisdiction of the lower court. And the entire case file is handed over to the High Court, and the judgment will be declared null and void. It won't be practiced. The particular judgment passed by the lower court, it won't be permitted, and it won't get the permission to practice. That is why it will be declared null and void. It won't be accepted. Thus, this writ is remedial in nature. Writ of certiorari means to be informed about what is going on, and the inferior courts, whenever it passes its jurisdiction and passes a particular judgment on the matters related beyond its jurisdiction, that time the High Court can demand the inferior court to present all the case file to the High Court, and the decision made by the inferior court will become null and void. The next one, it is the writ of quo warranto. This particular writ is issued against a person who has wrongly occupied an office, to a person who has wrongly occupied an office without any permission. The office must be a public office, that means the government office. The writ will tell the person to explain under what authority he or she is holding such a office. That means the writ will ask the explanation from the person who holds the particular office. And if the court finds that the person is holding office illegally, it will order him to vacate the office. If the court finds that the person is holding that particular office or the position illegally, then the court will declare or say to that person to leave that particular post. Next point, it is the power of judicial review. Supreme Court is the guardian and the final interpreter of the Constitution. That point we have already seen, and here we are going to see the power of judicial review. The Supreme Court has the power to review or examine any law passed by the legislature or any order issued by the executive to verify if that very law or order is going against any provision of the Constitution or not. So we know there are three organs. The first one, legislative, the law making, and the second one, it is the executive, those who enforce the particular law. And whenever a particular law is made by the legislature and an order issued by the executive, after passing that particular, the executive accept that law, then the judicial system or the Supreme Court can verify whether such a kind of laws go against the provisions there in the Constitution or not. It is the duty of the Supreme Court to find out whether the laws made and the order issued by the executive is going against the provisions of the Constitution. And what will happen if the Supreme Court finds that the laws passed by the legislature or the order issued by the executive is going against the provisions there in the Constitution? That is discussed in the second point. If the court finds that the law or that order is contravening and provision of the Constitution, it will be declared null and void by the Supreme Court. Contravening means contrary. If the Supreme Court finds that the law passed by the legislature and an order issued by the executive is going against the provision of Constitution, then the Supreme Court can declare that law as null and void. That is the second point. And this power is known as the power of judicial review. That is the power of judicial review. What is the power? So here three organs are there: legislature, executive and judiciary. When legislative pass a particular law and the executive pass any order, issue or the order, then it is the duty of the judicial system or the Supreme Court to verify whether the law passed by the legislature or the order issued by the executive is going against the Constitution or not. If it is going against the Constitution, then it is the duty of the judicial system or the Supreme Court to make or declare such a kind of law as null and void. And such a kind of power of Supreme Court is known as the power of judicial review. And here the Supreme Court is also the interpreter of the Constitution, and it makes the constitution clear to the people. And the Supreme Court is called the guardian of the fundamental rights and the protector of the constitution. Because of these reasons, the Supreme Court is known as the guardian of the fundamental rights and the protector of the constitution. Now we will see the scope of judicial review. The first one, whenever there is a dispute between the state government and the central government, then the Supreme Court can make a decision on the disputes that is going on between the central government and the state government. And the second one, it is the Supreme Court has the power to review all national and state laws. The laws made by the central government or the state government, the Supreme Court can review. And if the Supreme Court finds that the laws made by the state or the central government is against the constitution, then against the spirit of constitution, then the Supreme Court can declare such a kind of laws as null and void. And the third one, the Supreme Court is the guardian of the fundamental rights and can issue writs to enforce fundamental rights. Supreme Court is the guardian of the fundamental rights. So in order to enforce, in order to make sure that fundamental rights are going on properly, then Supreme Court can issue the writs in order to enforce the fundamental rights if they are violated. Administrative functions of the Supreme Court. The first one, the Chief Justice of India appoints the officers and servants of the Supreme Court. It is the duty of the Chief Justice of India to appoint the officers and servants of the Supreme Court. The court makes rules regarding the conduct of the advocates there in the court. The court can make rules and laws regarding the behavior of the advocates there in the court. It makes rules regarding the fees to be collected for the proceedings in the court. For the proceedings in the court, there is a particular fee, and the court can make rules regarding the fees to be collected for the proceedings. And the last one, the Chief Justice of India's recommendation to transfer the judges of high courts is not binding on the government. If the recommendation is made without consulting four senior most judges of the Supreme Court. So the Chief Justice of India, he should make a recommendation after consulting with the four senior most judges of the Supreme Court. And if he is not consulting with the senior most judges there in the Supreme Court and making a decision, then that won't be accepted. So for the transfer of the judges, he should consult with the four senior most judges of the Supreme Court. That is the administrative functions. So here, under the powers of the Supreme Court, we have seen Supreme Court a court of record, and Supreme Court enforce the fundamental rights, and there is a power of judicial review and the administrative functions. Independence and impartiality of the Supreme Court. Independence and impartiality of the Supreme Court is ensured by the following measures. There are certain measures in order to ensure the independence and the impartiality of the Supreme Court. The first one, it is the appointment of the judges. The President appoints the judges of the Supreme Court after the consultation with the Chief Justice of India. The Chief Justice in turn consults four of his senior most colleagues. Neither political bias nor personal choice should play any role in the appointment of the judges. So Supreme Court is free from all kind of impartiality and the political bias and the personal choice. That is why the President consult with the Chief Justice, and then Chief Justice consult with the four senior most colleagues and select the judges for the Supreme Court. Next one, the security of tenure. That means the term. A judge retires at the age of 65 and he can resign from his post after giving a written resignation to the President. But he can be removed by the President only on the ground of proved misbehavior or incapacity after an address of each house of the Parliament. The charges levelled against the judges must be proved only by a point addressed by both the houses of the Parliament and supported by a 2/3 majority of members present and voting. So changing or the removal of the president, that is not changing or the removal of the judges, that is not something very easy. It is only on the ground of proved misbehavior or the incapacity the chief justice or the judge can be removed from his post, and after that this should be addressed there in the both the houses and it should get the 2/3 majority. Then only the judge can be removed from his post. That is why it is said security of tenure. The term is protected. The judge cannot be removed very easily. It should follow the proceedings for the removal of the judges. Regarding the security of salaries, the salary is taken from the Consolidated Fund of India. The salary of the judges is taken from the Consolidated Fund of India, and it can be only reduced during the period of financial emergency. So the fund is taken from the Consolidated Fund of India, and the salary can be reduced only during the period of financial emergency. The next one, no practice after retirement. After the retirement, the judges, the Supreme Court judges, they are not supposed to practice in any court of tribunal of India, and it helps that his judgment or opinion should not influence the decisions of the other judges in discharging their duty. So after their retirement, no Supreme Court judges, they are not supposed to practice in any court or tribunal of India. No discussion regarding the conduct of the judges in the legislature is the next point. No discussion should take place in the parliament regarding the conduct of the judges except there is a motion for his removal. In parliament, they are not supposed to discuss about the conduct of the judges. And only one condition they can discuss: whenever there is a proceeding or motion for the removal of judges, then the members of the parliament can discuss about the misbehavior or the conduct of the judges, and otherwise they are not supposed to discuss anything about the conduct of the judges in the legislature or the parliament. The last point, that is punishment for the contempt of the court. Contempt here means the one who disgraces. Contempt of court means disgracing court. Whenever the Supreme Court sees someone is disgracing or disobeying the court, then the Supreme Court can punish whenever the person tries to lower the authority and honor of the court. Whenever one person tries to lower the authority and honor the court, then the court can punish such a kind of person. So here in this chapter we had seen about the judicial system. Okay, the Union Judiciary, the Supreme Court. There we had seen the single integrated judiciary system and some of the powers of the Supreme Court, the term and office and procedure of the removal of the Chief Justice and the judges there in the Supreme Court, jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, then the powers of the Supreme Court. Now you may just go through once again and make sure that is clear to you, the chapter is clear to you. So that is the end of chapter 4, the Union Judiciary, the Supreme Court. Here in this chapter we are seeing the single integrated judiciary system in India, and regarding the composition and the organization of the Supreme Court, jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, then regarding the powers of the Supreme Court, and finally independence and impartiality of the Supreme Court. You may please go through the chapter once again and write first 5 questions from the short answer questions, and write first two questions and answers from the structured questions. Thank you. Have a nice day.